Independence represents a new opportunity for the people of South Sudan, an opportunity to build a new nation that embodies their values and their aspirations. It also presents an opportunity for the people of Sudan to redefine their relationship with the international community and to pursue a more prosperous and stable future.
They've gotten to a point, but in our previous studies, it was very much focused on separation. But what we found in this study is they're starting to take the corner to look internally. And this quote by one of our participants reflects that. "We voted to separate from the Arabs who made us slaves. But as we have separated now, we want a nation with good governance and respect for the feelings of citizens, a nation that will eliminate tribalism and with no empty promises from leaders." So that's what they're looking for in their new nation. The people in our study said that corruption was a significant problem. There's no accountability, there's no transparency, there's lack of control over public funds. They want this addressed and think it's crucial to address the corruption issue if the country is going to be successful. By far, the biggest challenge that people in our study pointed to was the issue of tribalism, both in terms of an imbalance of power, and then another aspect of tribalism is they believe there are very unfair government employment practices, which is important since the government is the only viable employer for the most part right now in South Sudan. So people feel locked out of the government employment process. And as I said, that's one of the major rewards of peace because right now it's the only employer. We only really focused on one issue in the study on oil. It was participants' feelings about having to pay a fee to the north to transport the oil through the north to Port Sudan. There was fairly strong opposition to paying any fee to the north to transport the oil. Most of the participants said they could accept some sort of business relationship to transport the oil. Even then, they want it to be temporary. They don't want to have this connection, particularly as it relates to resources with the North for a long time. Well, again, there were several issues that the participants raised related to the military. One, again, is the tribalism issue. They feel the top leadership is dominated mainly by the Dinka. They also say that sometimes when new recruitment is happening for the army, the soldiers who are recruited are only from a very narrow part of the population, a clan or a family, that sort of thing. There's also issues of when the soldiers are not paid, say they go and loot. Actually, the local population apparently does not, according to our citizens, doesn't blame the soldiers, they blame the government for not paying the soldiers. They believe there's corruption, major corruption in the army. So there's several issues that the government of South Sudan will have to address in terms of the army, particularly how the army relates to the population. Well, it's interesting. You know, in the study, we didn't ask specifically about the diaspora, but people would, unprompted, mention the diaspora. They actually see them as a very important aspect of development. Their talent pool in terms of engineers and doctors and people who have technical skills is very, very small unless the diaspora come back. So there is support for whatever the government would have to do to attract diaspora back to aid the development of the country. So I think there is support for that among the population. You know, the one thing that can't be ignored here, particularly with our participants talking about tribalism being the major challenge, is the aspect of nation building. You know, I think there needs to be real effort on the part of the government to talk about who they are now as South Sudan, as a country. How are you different from your values and your ideals than other countries around you? And really make that a part of the conversation, so there is something that unifies people, there is something that brings them together, and that they can be proud to call themselves South Sudanese rather than just member of a tribe. In terms of development, they're certainly beyond what the government of South Sudan can deliver. They have a short time frame within which they want to see major changes in their specific area. 2 years was the most that they were willing to wait before they saw major changes. I think in other aspects, greater controls over corruption, wanting an end to tribalism, I don't know the reality of whether that's realistic or unrealistic, but it's certainly something that I think people understand at a very basic level, a gut level, that these are the issues that will make or break the new country.